What's going on, guys? It's your man, DJ Caveman. I'm here again on the porch for episode 5 with Tom DiNucci. This week, we're talking about Slimebuck, which is a kid-friendly film about a boy and his pet alien. Tom, how are you today, this week?
It's good to be here, man. It's always great to be here on the porch. It's Friday, kind of chilling out. It's a pretty busy week this week. Well, a lot of things going on with a couple of films I have in development right now. So I've been wrapping up, writing a couple projects, and we're also just starting to do things like location scout. I was location scouting with our boy B. Dolan yesterday. So we were kind of cruising around looking for some potential places we're going to shoot this movie, which I'll eventually disclose some more info about. But got something cooking with Verdi Productions this spring, early summer. So we'll be talking about that. I'm sure we'll eventually do a whole show about it. So it's been a busy week, and I'm excited to just kind of unravel a little bit here on the porch with you.
Excellent. Yeah, it was a good week, and this is an even better Friday because it's cold enough that our fucking grass cutting friend is not here.
Yeah, he's not mowing the lawn today, and it's not quite so cold where he's got the snowblower out, so we're good to go. And Daryl just informed me that he's a cold weather man, so I know that he's kind of probably excited for that.
I am. I'm looking forward to it. Like, this is
he's from Detroit.
This is my kind of weather.
It's my kind of freezing in Detroit all the time.
It's good. It's good hidden weather. They got a foot of snow up north, so
yeah. See,
feel bad for those guys right now.
This is all very, very normal.
I'm ready for this wintertime stuff. So Slimebuck, it's your first kids movie.
That's right. This was my first kids movie.
Official kids movie.
Yeah.
You've had some kids in your other films, but this is the first one that's
geared specifically to kids. Yeah.
I watched it this morning, as always, and it was good. It was fun. It was like a fun, lighthearted situation. So let's get into the background. Like, how did we get to Slimebuck?
Slimebuck is probably, out of all the movies that I've made, this one kind of has the most heart. It's all because of the backstory of why I got involved and how it all happened, and basically it all starts with a guy by the name of Kyle Cirelli, who unfortunately is no longer with us. But Kyle was a friend of mine who I actually went to middle school and high school with, and I would always see him, and Kyle suffered from muscular dystrophy, and it was one of those things where Kyle was always in a wheelchair. And that's kind of just how I always knew Kyle. He was always one of those kids that you'd see no matter kind of what he was going through with his disability. Like, he always was really upbeat and had a smile on his face. And although we weren't super close in school, I just remember that about him. I just remember him always being kind of smiling and upbeat. And, like a lot of kids do, you drift apart, you high school ends, and then you just don't see people for years sometimes.
Right.
You go like a decade and be like, holy shit.
Yeah, I run into people all the time I haven't seen since high school.
It's the craziest thing, even though you live in the same state.
20 years ago I graduated.
Yeah, and you're like, I haven't seen this guy in 20 years. So it's one of those things when I saw Kyle I was doing a horror convention in, I think it was called Rock and Shock. And we were out there promoting a movie called Incubus that I was an actor in. And I see Kyle, and I'm kind of like, whoa, Kyle, what are you doing here, man? And he's like, oh, I'm a huge horror buff. I love horror movies. I've always loved this stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. And we talked a little bit about our movies. And then I would see him at, a couple of conventions that I had been to. And eventually he told me about this website that he had in this kind of horror page called morbidlyamusing.com. And this was his kind of love letter to the genre. He had this website where he would do everything from movie reviews to write articles about upcoming films that are going to be coming out, and his past favorite slasher movies and zombie movies, and just, really got into it. Did some of his own, creative work as well. Kyle went to Rhode Island College to pursue a career in film and media, and learned how to work a camera, learned how to tell a story visually. So Kyle had begun to put together some of his own content, and he was really doing a lot of kind of great things, flourishing, and just so passionate about everything that he did. So I saw his website. I thought it was really cool, and he actually reviewed. I think it was Army of the Damned. He reviewed, and it was really cool to just kind of be, rekindle this relationship with this guy. Haven't seen him in a long time, and now, known him since I was 12, and now here we are, buddies, and he's writing articles about my films, and he even gave me some notes on a couple of things that I wrote, and we kind of going back and forth, and like, oh, this is something I wrote. Oh, this is something I wrote. Take a look at this. He loved to read stuff. And then I hadn't seen Kyle in like probably a year. About a year went by, and we had just been corresponding through like Facebook and through Messenger and things like that. And finally, he was like, "Hey, Tommy, I've got this script that I really want to make into a movie. I'd love your help. Do you want to come by and read it and check it out, and we'll talk about it?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." He still lives in Cranston. So do I.
Oh, nice.
Perfect.
Super
10
easy.
minutes away.
Right.
So I drive to his house, and I go in, and I meet with Kyle, and Kyle's parents are awesome. Shout out to Vin and Annette Cirelli, just two amazing people. Got to meet them, and got to talk to Kyle. And I sat down with Kyle, and Kyle's condition had worsened quite a bit. I didn't realize that. Like I said, last time I saw him, he was in a wheelchair. Well, this time he was kind of he was bedridden. He was in a hospital bed. And Kyle, his parents, Vin and Annette, they really are like truly like angels. What they did to make Kyle comfortable, no matter what conditions he was under. It was really extra special and something to see. And they converted his entire bedroom into a hospital, basically. A little hospital room.
Oh, wow.
They knocked the wall down. They extended the room. They had this big TV for him so that he could watch all of his films. And at this point, Kyle was so sick that, he really only had the use of one hand and only about one finger on one hand. I'm sorry, this is the worst timing, guys, but that's my cat, Larry. If you hear some meowing, he's getting awful boisterous here. But, Kyle, he only had the use of really one hand and one finger on that one hand. And he would type his script one letter at a time, and build that word and then build a sentence. And everything he did, like, think about it, it's like, think about how methodically he had to type everything. And think about how much time he spent thinking about every decision he was going to make. Because,
right.
You type, you better fucking mean it. Because you're
Right.
typing with one finger, one letter at a time. So that just really, like, inspired the shit out of me when I saw that. And at that point, like, that kid could have asked me to run through a brick wall if that was on fire, and I would have been like, fuck yeah, Kyle, I'll run right through that wall for you. What do you want me to do? And he basically said, like, well, listen, I know you're going to make Almost Mercy. Timing check, if you've been following along with the show. This is literally, like, a month before we started shooting Almost Mercy. And basically, Kyle's like, hey, when you're done with Almost Mercy, do you want to come by and, help me make this movie and basically help me direct the movie, be the go-between for me, because I'm going to be in this room. I can't really, Kyle wasn't really able to move around too much at that point. So he would have needed somebody to talk to actors and talk to his crew. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it, So I went and I made Almost Mercy. We shot the film, and we finished the movie, and it wasn't very long after. It was probably only, I don't quite remember exactly how long it was, but shortly thereafter, I got a call from Kyle's cell phone, and it was Kyle's father, and he gave me the bad news that Kyle had passed away, kind of unexpectedly. And it was a really sad moment for me, and it hurt, and we dedicated that film to Kyle. And then his father was really pretty quick about saying, hey, listen, I know that you had been working on Slimebuck with Kyle, and I know he'd been talking to you about this, but we still want to make his movie, and we want to do right by his kind of final wishes and make this film. Do you want to make it for him with your crew? And I said, absolutely, Vin. It'd be an honor to do that. And Kyle, for some of you might remember this if you went to the movies in the Warwick area, but Kyle was kind of a mainstay at the Warwick Showcase Cinema. He worked there a lot, and he would work every Friday night, and I think Saturdays too, and loved everybody. You know, he's a real personable kid, and everybody loved him, and you know, he knew everything about every movie. So coming in and out of every movie, people would chat to him. Oh, did you like that one? Oh, that one sucked. Oh, that one was great, or whatever it may be. Yeah, and that's where he worked. So Kyle saved up some money, and one of the things Kyle had said to me before he passed away was, "Hey, look, you know, I've saved up some money. You know, kind of like, what else am I going to do with my money? You know, like, this is my passion. I want to make a film." And I was like, "That's great." And he's like, "You know, I don't want you to think," basically, like, "I don't want you to think that you're going to come here and make some super chintzy movie. Like, I've got some money that I saved up to make this," basically. So, okay, here we are, cut to Vin says, "Listen, I've got some of his funds set aside. We want to make this film." So I got the script together, I looked at it again, and I rounded up the usual suspects. You know, the people that we've talked about a lot on this podcast, you know, John Del Ponte, and Ali Malillo, and Ben Bornstein, and, you know, quite a few of the usual repeat offenders that I work with.
Right.
And I kind of got everybody together. Joe Cantor was there, and Bobby Boom, and I got everyone together, and I was like, "Hey guys, listen, I got this movie. It's a passion project of mine. I really want to do this, and is everyone willing to kind of, you know, yeah, I want everybody to get taken care of and get paid, but, you know, let's do right by this movie, you know." And everybody agreed right away, I mean, to work the bare minimum to, like, make it just make sense for their time to come onto the project and do what they had to do. And basically, Kyle had already been working with Ben Bornstein, who I introduced him, you know, back during our conversations early on. We were going back and forth through Messenger a lot. He was like, "Hey, do you know anyone who does, you know, could, like, build me some kind of a special effects type creature?" And I said, "Oh, come on, Ben Bornstein, he's the guy. He's made all kinds of creatures and has a lot of experience with that stuff." So Ben and him had been talking about making this creature, which would ultimately be the creature you see in Slimebuck. And he was this, you know, probably about almost 3 feet long, and he was made of foam and latex, and there was a great paint job on him. You know, he had a lot of these, like, spots and aged marks, and, you know, had a lot of little nuances, had some gnarly sharp teeth, you know, like a whole mouth full of jagged sharp teeth, and was kind of like both cute and menacing at the same time, which is kind of what Kyle wanted, you know.
Right.
We're gonna get into the specifics of what the movie's about, you know, down the road later in the show, but basically we had this puppet. You could put your hand in it and operate it. You could work its mouth. You could, you know, had fins kind of that could slightly move a little bit. And now we needed to basically put these pieces together. Okay, well, you know, the movie is basically about these two kids that are having a sleepover party because their mother is being honored at some kind of a fancy ball, you know, and the mom and dad are away for the night, and these two kids are just having fun, playing video games, hanging out, doing normal 10-year-old kid things. And there's, boom, a crash landing of some kind, and an alien monster is in their backyard. But he's not as ravenous and scary looking as he may appear, despite the jagged rows of teeth and, you know, his slippery demeanor. He's actually pretty damn cute and a cuddly friend. He's like a little puppy, basically. But, of course, there's got to be a foil in every story. And Dad, who has this hooked up science lab in the basement, is also a government worker, and there have been some deposits of this very rare crystal which powers the alien spaceship, and Dad accidentally took it home with him for the weekend from work. So Slimebuck, the reason why he comes to the house is because he realizes that, oh, these crystals, this is my power source to get my busted spaceship back up in the sky and get out of here. So he's drawn to the house to get the crystals. But the Russians are also after the crystals.
The Russians.
So we have a Russian terrorist played by Fred Sullivan and Nick Principe, who are also, a couple of actors that I just love working with, and I try to fit them into almost everything I do. And this was kind of early on in that process. So they came on, they played these scary Russian terrorists, and they're after the kids that night, and they figure, okay, the kids will go to bed, we'll sneak in, we'll take our crystals, and we'll get out of here. Because what you don't realize, folks, is these crystals aren't just any crystals. They're a never-ending source of power, and if they were to get in the wrong hands, they could build the ultimate
weapon.
Yeah, the ultimate destruction machine. So basically, this was a big deal. And Slimebuck, but the Russians didn't realize that Slimebuck would be there. So that was their surprise. So basically, it becomes a little bit of like a Home Alone type deal.
Yeah, I felt that.
Where you're like, yeah, Slimebuck now must defend the house and protect his new two best buddies that he just met. So it's kind of fun. We had a blast making this movie. And I'm excited to talk about it. This was both like a very exciting process in the fact that, anytime you get to make a film, especially a kid's movie with this kind of energy and this kind of content, it's exciting. But it was also kind of sad, my friend passed away and, he wasn't there. But, and everybody kind of said this that worked on the movie, there was this kind of cool feeling of like his presence was there because we shot the movie in his house. So that was like, that was one of the things that, was kind of a connective piece to Kyle. We shot the movie in his house. The main character's bedroom was Kyle's bedroom. And I bet you a lot of it when Kyle was imagining the story. In fact, we had these conversations. He envisioned the house that he lived in to be the base for what the story was going to be. The setting for the story. So it couldn't have been any more perfect for like what was cooking up in Kyle's head at the time. So we got everybody together. I explained to Kyle's parents, to Vin and Annette that, hey, look, we're happy to do this, but, bear with the process. This is a very kind of, it becomes like a home invasion of sorts where...
Right, trying to set them up for the...
Yeah, I wanted them to know that, this isn't like... I think we shot for about 4 days, and, even that, it's a fairly short shoot, but even that, it's like, we got to be there for at least a few days before the 4 days, because we got to prep everything, and then you can imagine, you're just going to go home when it's done. You got to clean everything up, right? Wrap everything up, so... That's another at least 3 or 4 days. So it's one of those things where I wanted them to realize, like, listen, I'm happy to do this for you, but know that this is going to be a shit show. And Kyle, would have certainly thought this was really cool, but I just want you to know that this could get intense in here. And I got to say, like, again, back to the angelic qualities of Vin and Annette, they were the coolest people on the planet. They couldn't have been more welcoming. They couldn't have opened their doors any wider. And they basically said, like, I don't care if you guys have to move in here. Like, do what you got to do. We'll make whatever accommodations we need. Just give us the dates, and we'll make it work. And they were very, very much convicted to do this. And
that's very cool.
Yeah, they were super excited. And, there's always this give a production team a crumb and they'll ask for a piece of cheese too, or whatever the fuck that phrase is about the mouse.
Yeah. I don't know, but
yeah, there's some kind of phrase about a mouse asking for more food. Little greedy little fuck that he is. But there's a situation where, as we were in there to pay homage to Kyle's script and make everything 100% the way he would have wanted it, we had to kind of slowly ask them for more and more in terms of like what we could do on the inside. And one of those things, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the interesting production tales, one of the things was we took buckets and buckets and gallons of cinematic movie slime. Because the name of the movie, I don't know if you noticed, it's Slimebuck, right? So this alien creature's one slimy little guy. I mean, he just everywhere he goes, he's leaking. There's slime everywhere. So the final scene of the movie, and Daryl actually says, I got the chance to watch the movie with Daryl here, He says, so he kind of cocoons them up. And it's like, yes, spoiler alert. At the end of the movie, Slimebuck is able to basically cocoon the two Russian bad guys in this giant slime sacks, we'll call them. And there's slime all over the fucking kitchen. Head to toe, ceiling to floor, everywhere. Slime. Green, thick slime.
Ugh.
And they couldn't have been more, accepting of the fact that, the kitchen was temporarily destroyed for the time being. But you know what? In a weird way, and, I got a chance to really talk to Annette after this. I don't think I'm putting words in their mouth. But, like, in a weird way, like, as crazy as that was and as nutty as that whole scene was, I think it was this therapeutic thing for everybody, It was like, they just kept saying, like, Kyle would have thought this was so funny, and Kyle would have thought this was awesome, and,
right.
He would have really, he would be laughing hysterically right now, and look at this, and he would love this, and he loves slime, and it was just really cool to kind of see that, most people would be screaming.
Like, mortified.
Because they're... And by the way, guys, Finn and Annette have a very, very nice house. This is a very nice house with a beautiful kitchen, beautiful home right there up in Western Cranston. And it was on the shelf for a little while after what we did to it. So Finn and Annette were awesome. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because I just love that story. But basically, we brought everybody in. We needed a puppeteer because, unfortunately, this wasn't the kind of thing where we were going to be able to CGI Slimebuck. We knew
right.
that it was going to be what they call in the movies practical. When you don't have CGI, that's called practical. Practical effect. This is a practical alien.
This is 2014, right? 15?
Yes.
So, CGI was good, but...
Yeah, CGI wasn't quite where it is to the point where, yes, the major motion picture studios had it. They could do crazy shit, but... a band of 20-something-year-old filmmakers on a budget, but a fairly shoestring budget, wouldn't be able to have access to those types of effects.
Right.
So we had to do a practical, and we needed a puppeteer. So I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of Big Nazo's Lab.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Big Nazo's Lab. We'll give him a quick back. Tell us a little bit. What do you know about Big Nazo's Lab?
I just know they have these huge puppet type dudes, and they go to like all the parades and stuff like that. My buddy actually had a music studio on the 5th floor of their building back in the day. Cool puppets. Like bigger than life, like larger than life.
And they're kind of green and goblin-like and alien-looking, and
yeah,
that's kind of what drew me to them. So I immediately thought, like, shit, I need these cocoons at the end of the movie, these like suits, basically, that a guy could appear to be balled up in a giant cocoon of hardened slime. As gross as that sounds. Anyway, I needed a cocoon. I needed someone to build that shit. You can't just go to Cocoons Depot. You can't go to Cocoon Depot and pick up a couple of adult-sized
cocoons?
Alien cocoons.
You can't get them at a Halloween shop either.
Yeah, this is real specific shit because it's got to look like a fucking movie. When you're making a movie, the idea is to make it look like something that nobody's ever seen before. You want to do something different. Try to shock the audience as much as you can. Especially this was our big final, third act hoorah set piece. So if it was shit, the whole movie would have kind of been shit. Right. And if the whole movie before it didn't work out, we knew that, well, hey, if we got a big bang at the end of the movie, at least you'll leave feeling like, oh, that fucking cocoon thing was insane.
Pretty smooth, yeah.
That was cool. That's the last thing that you see. So it's like, let's win him back at the end, if anything.
Right.
That was the goal. So basically, we really wanted to put our everything into these cocoons. And I needed a puppeteer to operate Slimebuck because as talented as Ben Bornstein is at making the actual creature, he just wasn't interested in being the puppeteer. He wasn't interested in operating him. And it is a real specific thing. That's an art form, man. And I didn't realize it until I did this movie. And we worked with a gentleman by the name of Erminio who runs Big Nazo's Lab, and he couldn't have been a nicer guy. He's a true artist in every sense of the word. our first meeting, he broke out a sketch pad and just drew me these cocoons and said, "Oh, and then they need veins coming out of it. They need to have slime everywhere, and like think about it, like this could be hung from like the top of a roof, and it could connect to all these different parts of the room." And like he immediately was just flowing creatively and drawing these very detailed photos, which, believe it or not, we used some of the pictures like in the movie. When Slimebuck's like drawing like where he's from, like things like that. But Erminio was a super talented guy, and he came on, and I think he worked a couple days on the movie, 2 out of the 4 days as our puppeteer, and he brought a whole new life to this completely lifeless, dead. It's a 2.5, 3 foot long latex piece of foam. Yeah, it's not alive, and he made it come to life, and he brought this energy to it. And it was kind of fun, He didn't actually do the voice, but he kind of came up with what would be the sort of the prototype for the voice.
Okay, yeah.
It's hard to not operate a puppet without doing some kind
sort
of
sound,
and squeaky cute bullshit that he was doing. And that squeaky cute bullshit is what I ended up taking, and I guess we'll come out with it now. I ended up doing the voice of Slimebuck. So all that cute little cutesy voice kind of stuff you hear, that's me. We'll get into that later when we get into our post-production aspect of the show. But basically, yeah, we just we all came together. Ali Malillo worked on that one. She built a bunch of really cool props because, these Russian bad guys have these weapons, and,
It was like a weird cattle prod or something.
Yeah, there was a cattle prod. There was just a lot of prop work. There was, I believe, a gentleman by the name of Lou, who works with the Rhode Island Film and Television Office. He actually built this really cool, like, kind of homing tracking device that the Russians used to track the crystals. So there were a lot of fun little pieces to this one. But yeah, we all kind of just came together and made this movie, and it was kind of an interesting thing because I've never made a movie where I had so many people on set, in such a small location.
That were not actually doing work.
Yeah, that were watching. And, listen, I'm not saying this like I was annoyed by it. I was kind of just like impressed and just kind of taking it all in, because this meant a lot to Kyle's family. This meant a lot to Kyle's friends. And Kyle had a ton of friends. He was a very popular guy. He had a group of guys that he would hang out with every weekend. They would take him out. They would do it all. Kyle, the cool thing about Kyle was, despite his disability, he never acted like, I'm just going to shut myself in the house and never leave. I mean, like, he went out to bars. He went out to... Let's put it this way. I don't need to go into graphic detail, but he did every single thing. This is one thing that his friends made clear to me when we talked after. Kyle did every single thing that every other 20-something-year-old guy would do. And you can use your imagination to, take that in any direction you want. But there was nothing that Kyle didn't let any of this shit stop him from doing anything.
That's what's up.
And yeah, and that's why it was kind of like the ultimate, send-off in a way for him to have this movie made, because we did kind of do a lot of crazy shit, we bested many obstacles to get this movie made and to do it right and to do it at the level that I think would have made him really proud. So, there's some kind of cool things about this movie that we can get into. We talked about Big Nazo's lab. We talked about Erminio. It's one of those things now where, okay, I had to go into casting. What are we going to put together? We're going to do right by Kyle. That was the thing. Like, there was such a high level of, like, it's one thing to fuck up your own movie.
Right?
You don't want to fuck up someone else's movie. So there was this, like, level of, like, I almost felt like a fielder, like, the pitcher has, like, a really good game work. And, like, I don't want to be the guy to, have the ball go between my legs.
Right.
And give up a run or put a guy on base or whatever. So we were all kind of working extra hard to make sure that everything was on point. And an obvious part of the movie would be the cast. And we needed to cast these two kids that, were these just kind of fun-loving boys that are having a sleepover party. And, things get crazy when this alien shows up on the scene. And I had just made Almost Mercy, and I had just worked with Jonah. So Jonah made perfect sense to kind of just, okay, well, I just worked with this guy.
Right.
He's super talented. He listens to everything I say. In terms of, like, there was never one time during Almost Mercy where, like, I would give him a direction in terms of, like, some complicated stuff, like during a Steadicam shot. Like, all right, walk around the corner, go all the way down that hallway, take a right, and then look up, the camera's going to be right there. And he would get everything. He was like a machine. So I really liked that about him, and, made sense. I knew that we had to work pretty quickly on this one. We only had a few days. So Jonah Copolelli was brought on. And then I worked with Ann Mulhall on this movie of LDI Casting, who Ann is a really talented casting agent. She's pretty much, pretty famous in these parts in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
If you're an actor in Rhode Island and you don't know Ann Mulhall, you probably haven't been doing a whole lot of work.
I actually did a monologue for her.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
There you go. See that? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So her reputation precedes itself. So basically, Anne was on board to cast this movie, and Anne's got a really big heart on her, and I basically said, I obviously explained to her the story of Kyle and how we're making this for him, and right away she was like, all right, yeah, let's do this, and she was really into it. So she got some kids together, and I had an audition one day, and there was a hilarious little kid named Jack Bernal, who this kid auditioned, and it was one of those things where you hear this about a lot of comedians. They're really funny when they're little kids, but it was like he was this little 40-year-old man. Like, he was like, I was like, how do you know? How is your comedy this advanced and this sharp? And, like, he's making references to, like, Caddyshack. Like, how is this possible? This movie came out 20 years before you were born.
Right.
Like, what? And the kid just, his comedic chops, like, just really right away took me. And, I looked at his parents, like, right then, and I was like, well, is he available? And whatever it was. And I pretty much, like, booked him right there on the spot to play Edgar, the quirky kid. And the cool thing about Jack is, like Jonah, Jack has went on to be in a couple of movies with me beyond that. One in particular where he played the lead. It's actually really funny, man, now that you think about this and you put this in perspective. Jack played the lead in my Christmas movie, Saving Christmas, which stars Ed Asner and Brooke Langdon and Pat Muldoon. And Jonah, I think it was maybe probably 2 years later, we just made that, our dog, I can't say the name yet legally, but we just made an adventure dog movie. And that one, was with Jonah. Jonah stars in that one. So I've gotten a chance to kind of watch these kids grow as actors and, go from playing 10-year-old kids to, young men now, they're young teenage kids. So really cool to see both of those guys sticking with their craft and continuing through. And in the words of Eric Clapton, you'll be good if you don't quit,
Wise words.
Yeah. So shout out to those two guys for sticking with it. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about Fred Sullivan. We talked a little bit about Nick Principe. But both of these guys, I can't say it enough about just kind of how much fun they both are to work with. You've got Fred, who's this as classically trained as can be guy who, did 30-plus years of Shakespeare and, all the classics. And basically, if it was a great classic traditional play or in everything in between, he's probably played a lead in it. He's just a super talented guy, and we have this fun rapport where he'll usually take a line of dialogue or two and tweak a little something or add a little something, and we'll usually get coffee like a week before we shoot, and he'll be like, "Hey Tommy, he has this notebook. He always takes he has a little notebook out. He takes it out, and he's like, Tommy, what do you think about this line?" And there's like one here, like I just told you about it when we were watching the movie, but instead of saying like, I think I have his character comes in and he's trying to play nice with the kids and try to lie to them and say, no, I work with your dad. It's not a big deal. We're just here to get the crystal. He left it at the office. Can we have it? And I think the line was, it's no big deal. And Fred was like, do you think I can change the line? I'm like, what do you got? And he was like, the deal, it is not big. And he said it in this Russian accent, and I was like, oh, that's funny. Like, the deal, it is not big. Like, you know, because he doesn't speak English as a first language, so he's kind of like trying to pick up these colloquialisms, but saying them all fucked up. And, yeah, like, but clearly, like, you're not from around here. So that was fun. It's always fun to work with Fred with that stuff. And then we had Joe Sirianni, who played Griff in Army of the Damned. And you can go into our archives, episode 3, Army of the Damned, and hear more about that. But Joe was a guy who I worked with who, again, you know, we're making a kid-friendly movie. We want kid-friendly people. We want friendly faces. We want people that read. There's a certain read on camera, you know. It's one of those things where I think film, it's funny, like, film is, like, one of the last, like, beacons of, like, it's oddly a judgmental world. Because you can't help it, but, like, no matter what, like, some guys look like bad guys. I don't give a fuck.
Some guys look like terrible people, even though they might not be terrible people.
That's why they get cast as fucking bad guys all the time.
Right.
And some guys look like lovable good guys. And guess what? They get fucking cast as lovable good guys a lot. I ain't saying they can't do both. I'm not saying that the scary-looking motherfucker can't be lovable as fuck. Look at Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, right.
He do it all. He's a scary dude. But the point is, you know, as directors, we do it. We can't help but do it. Like, you see a guy who's, like, lovable looking, we're going to cast him to play the lovable dad. Joe Sirianni had this kind of just lovable, like, TV dad look and feel to him. And I really liked that about him. But he also had this, like, kind of comedic vibe to him as well. And, again, kids' movie, got to always be light, got to always be looking to go for the joke, got to be always looking to, you know, keep it popping. Even if the dad might be yelling at the kid, like, make it light. So he was the right choice for that. Tess Deegan, you're going to notice a trend here. Tess Deegan played the mom in Almost Mercy, played Jackson's mom, who, you know, unfortunately had a rough go at it. But Tess is a really talented actress who Anne was kind of, you know, gave me the nod, like, hey, you know, what about Tess for that? You know, you just worked with her. She was great. And I was like, fuck yeah, that's a great idea. So that was another case where, you know, Anne with the assist.
Nice.
Shooting dimes.
Right.
Dimes from Anne.
Dimes from Anne.
and basically, you know, now I had my, you know, my kids. I had my 2 bad guys. I had my 2, I had my parents. And basically all that was left were a couple of smaller but, you know, really terrific little parts. For example, Mike Zuccolo, who comes in, and the great thing about Mike Zuccolo is every time he comes in to play a part, he's another one of these guys that I cast him in Almost Mercy. I met him, you know, through this big casting blast that we did a couple months before we shot. Thought he was super talented, really liked his work. And then, you know, we were also like broed the fuck out. Like, you know, we like all the same stuff. We happen to be like right around the same age, so like all the all the pop culture references are there. We played with the same toys growing up. We like the same baseball teams. It's all that same kind of stuff. And we just, you know, we hit it off really well. And when I was doing this, again, you call someone up, you call an actor up, and like, hey man, I don't have much in you. I don't have much for you in this, but yeah, you want to come in and just play this like goofy pizza guy for like a few hours, you know? And it's like, of course, are you kidding me? It'll be fun. And I remember, it's funny, if you look, he plays this quirky pizza guy. And Mike doesn't have long hair, but in the movie he has this really, really long hair. And it was actually this like goofy fucking gimmick where, like, you know those hats that have
the long hair in the
back? There was literally one of those fucking hats. But yeah, I gotta say, man, it looked terrific. And I think Gia did the makeup on this, the hair and makeup on this one. I got to go back and look at the credits, but whoever did the hair and makeup, it was terrific, and they made it look like it was real. You wouldn't know it was one of those goofy fucking party store hats.
Nice.
But yeah, Mike Zuccolo came in and played that part, and you know, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, Billy V. We can't forget about Billy V. Came in, and not only did he do a great cameo, but the cool thing about Billy V. is the owner of a gorgeous antique Rolls Royce. I'm not sure what year it is. I don't even want to guess because I'll butcher it.
It's gorgeous.
But it's beautiful. It's white. And it's one of those kind of, it's like something that if you were getting married, you could get dropped off in this thing.
Picked up and dropped off. And
yeah, like I'm pretty sure he does weddings and stuff in this, or he has in the past.
Anywhere fancy, for sure.
It's
it was
a
fucking car.
Badass looking car. Gets your attention. And again, for filmmakers out there that are listening to this, when you're making a movie, it's your job as the filmmaker to add as much production value to your film as possible. And that doesn't always mean money. That doesn't always mean, how much money did that cost? It means what's going to attract your eye, what's going to look pretty, what's going to make me comfortable. Because guess what? This is a little kid's movie. A little kid doesn't know what a fucking Rolls Royce is.
Right, no, that's for the parents.
Well, it's for the parents, but also what I'm saying is, a little kid might not know what a Rolls Royce is, but you look at that cool thing and you're like, what the fuck is that?
You definitely know it's cool.
You know that, like, that's a fancy motherfucking car that mom and dad don't have, and I never see that shit on the road. So it's like, if you take the time to put those little details in, it just makes everything better, even if the people watching it don't always realize why it's making it better. It's your job to always make it better. So I didn't want to just get a regular limo, and I didn't want mom and dad to just, like, drive off in their car. I wanted a really nice, stately kind of thing, because remember, mom just won some fucking giant baking award for, like, she made cupcake of the year or whatever, and she's being honored, so god damn it, dad's gonna go all out and get the best limo he can.
You gotta show up looking like you belong there.
That's right. Exactly. So figure, I gotta call my buddy Billy V up. And it kind of worked as a great twofer because Billy's a great actor. And I knew that, well, if I have Billy V here and he's, again, like everybody else who, obviously you hear this story, how could you not want to, like
help out somehow?
Exactly.
Like, oh my God, like, you can't say no. It's almost like you can't say no. Because if you say no, you're just a douchebag.
You're a real fucking prick to say no to something like this. But anyway, and thankfully, nobody said no. Everybody was awesome, and I hate to even be negative on a show like this because everyone was so fucking tremendously giving on this movie. But back to Billy V. I knew that I'd get the amazing Rolls Royce, and I knew that I'd get a great actor who could play. Now, not only do I have a great car, and instead of the limo driver just being, I don't want to call it a throwaway character, but just like an extra, well, now I can put a little personality into that character. And we did this fun little bit where, like, at the end, the mom's, playing it like she had a little too much fun. She's a little tipsy. She's kind of, like, walking up the steps, and she doesn't see. And Dad goes to give Billy a tip. Joe Sirianni gives Billy V a tip, and it's not quite enough. And Billy kind of, like, looks at him and gives him a hard look. And Joe, like, all right, and, like, goes into his pocket and gives him more money. Right. And it's this funny little, I call those, like, micro beats. It's just a little micro beat in the background. It's one of those things where, like, if you notice it, you laugh. If you don't notice it, whatever. You could easily miss it. But, it's maybe one of those things that, you watch it again and you notice it or whatever. It's this fun little beat that, if you just have background actors that are kind of stiff, well, you're not going to be able to do that. But if you have a great actor playing a very small part like that, well, now you can make that small part very memorable, specific, have a little nuance to it. So we had a lot of fun with Billy V on set and loved that Rolls Royce.
It's nice. I noticed it right away. I was like, wow, that's a nice car. And then I immediately thought, whose car is that?
Right.
Like, I was like,
did they rent a fucking Rolls Royce?
I live here. I've never seen this car. I'm going down the list of people I know who could have that car.
It's very small, the list.
Yes.
So, all right, guys, we just want to take a couple minutes to thank our sponsor, the Avalonia Film Festival. They're one of the reasons why we get to bring this show to you as often as we do. Honor, celebrate, promote. This is the mantra of Avalonia Film Festival. A film festival you can trust, low entry fees, and a website that actually honors, celebrates, and promotes you and your work as the filmmaker, photographer, and actor. Go to their website, distancefromavalon.com. That's distancefromavalon.com, and click on their pages. You can find out about their first 3 live events and see why they are Film Freeway's top 100 best reviewed film festival. They've been on that a bunch of times. They're doing really well. You can find them on filmfreeway.com. All you got to do is search Avalonia Festival. Again, that's Avalonia, Avalonia. And if you use the promo code PORCH in all caps, you get a 17% discount on your entries. And basically, guys, they specialize in 21-minute and under films, a variety of genres. If you've got a movie that's a horror movie, you got a vampire movie, you got a comedy, dark comedy, a mobile film, which is a movie that you make with your phone, romance, all kinds of genres. You can find a home for your movie at the Avalonia Film Festival. Competitive categories, and photographers, you can submit your film posters, you can submit behind-the-scenes photos, actors, you can submit a monologue, so there's a lot of chances for a lot of different people to get involved, and a lot of ways that artists can get their work out there, get a little pop, get a little notoriety, and maybe win some prizes. Again, the festival is on filmfreeway.com, and the website is distancefromavalon.com, and if you can't spell that, maybe you should go back to school, right? So, guys, remember, if you got a movie and you don't know what to do with it, and you want to get more eyes on it, right? That's the key to a movie. The key to a movie is getting people to watch it. Good, bad, or indifferent.
Even if they hate it, you
right?
want them to watch it.
Yes, get people to watch it. So if you want to do that, you can get it into the Avalonia Film Festival, and there's a good chance that you get some eyes on it. And use the promo code PORCH, and you save. You get 17% off your entry fee.
That's a lot.
We'll take it, right?
I would. I might write a monologue. Save my 17%.
You should. I tell Daryl every week.
Do people write their own monologues, or do they generally just do something from another movie or something?
You know, sometimes it'll depend. If you go into an audition, sometimes they'll request a monologue. And sometimes they'll specifically request an original monologue, but usually it's something that they pick out from either a movie that they like or a play. But, you know, real ballsy if you go in there with your own work.
Your own, right.
You know? But doesn't Daryl have a wonderful voice? I tell him that every week. So this guy's got to be doing more voiceover stuff.
It's velvety delicious.
It really is. It's something else. Write us an email if you think Daryl has an awesome voice. We got to get that email set up.
Nice.
Just for Daryl's voice fan club.
I'm gonna start my own Twitter. It's just gonna be voice.
Yeah, Daryl's voice. Daryl's real voice at. It's his real voice. All right, guys. So back to the show. Where we left off was basically we had made this awesome movie. We were rocking and rolling. We were doing our thing. We did have some stumbles. This wasn't a stumble-free film. There was one night when I had such a wonderfully orchestrated shot planned out where basically this movie takes place Halloween time, and we had all these beautiful props out front. The house was decorated, and we actually had a team standing by. We had, Ali Malillo who's standing off camera, and John Del Ponte was running a fan, and they had leaves, like actual fall leaves, and they would put the leaves in front of the fan, and the fan would blow the leaves into frame, and then my camera was slowly pushing in, and Sam Eilertson was the DP on this one, and we were all rocking and rolling, and this shot looked fucking beautiful. It looked like something out of, an R.L. Stine book. It was like a real cool, picturesque Halloween evening push-in. Something bad's about to happen type scene. And this was to basically show, hey, this is where the monster shows up. This is where the alien arrives. And at this point in the story, we don't know if the alien's going to be bad or not. He might be a man-eating alien for all we know. So we get this beautiful shot. I was so fucking proud of it. Very happy about it. And this is one of those things, guys, where I guess it's like, it's like a car wreck. You don't mean it to happen. Nobody wants it to happen. Sometimes that shit just happens, and you're left with a real shit situation, and that's what we were left with. We had this beautiful shot, and for whatever reason, when the footage got delivered to the hard drive where it's stored, something went wrong with that hard drive, and that hard drive was contaminated, and that file was fucked. It was gone.
Ugh.
It was destroyed. There was nothing we could do.
It's like the ghost in the machine.
Really was just one of those situations where you got no fingers to point. There's nobody to blame. It just happens once in a while. I mean, I've heard major motion pictures of this stuff happen. I was on a movie one time, and I don't need to drop names or say anything, but I was on a movie with a very prominent actor, and he had to do his entire scene all over again the next day because the media team accidentally dumped some footage. And again, when I say accidentally, it wasn't their fault. Like, something just went awry with the technology. Guys, we're dealing with technology here. We're dealing with fucking, hard drives and machines and bullshit. It's finicky. Sometimes it just doesn't work. And it was one of those things where this hard drive just didn't want to work. So we got the best shot in the movie, potentially. You could argue that. And it just went up into the ether. It was just gone,
Damn.
So that was a tough one. And, there's nothing you could do about it. You just kind of take the shot, gather yourself, and try to still cut together the best movie. We didn't find that out until we got into post-production. We were looking for that shot.
Oh, wow. So it's not like you knew you lost it. You
no,
reshoot it.
No,
we
were like, where's that shot? And it was just, that hard drive was just damaged and that file was contaminated. So that fucking sucked. But, we all came together, and towards the final scene, we're sliming this thing up. We're getting the room primed, and we literally have a team of people casing the entire kitchen with slime. And there was one moment we were shooting like one of the last shots in the movie, and I looked out into... It reminded you of playing, like, the only thing I can compare it to is, like, playing a sport in, like, high school, and you look out, and there's, like, people in the stands, and you're like, wow, look at all those people.
Right.
There were a lot of people watching us make this movie. And it was a great feeling, and there's this great feeling of Kyle's kind of, his spirit being there, because all these people that loved Kyle, knew him for his entire life, they were all there, they were all literally pulling up, chairs and picnic chairs and tables, sitting at tables, and it was a party. It was a celebration of Kyle's life that last day of the shoot. They all were there with their, some of them had, people had brought pastries, and some people had brought they were drinking cocktails and having fun.
Nice.
They were having fun. It wasn't a downer. Let's remember, Kyle's production company was called Morbidly Amusing. Break those two words down. Morbidly, meaning fucking dark and fucked up. Amusing, funny. So, like, he loved dark shit. He loved fucked up things. Like, that's what made him laugh. I'm into that stuff, too. I mean, go watch Almost Mercy. It's a dark fucking movie. There's a comedic vibe to it as well at the same time, at moments. So, I got that, and I felt that in the air. And it was really cool to see all these people that cared so much about Kyle getting a chance to watch his dream come true right before their eyes on that final day of the shoot. And I called cut for the last time, and I looked up, and, our first AD says, that's a wrap on Slimebuck. And there was just this emotional wave that was palpable, and it was electric, and it was through the entire room, and there were cheers, there were tears, there was a lot of hugging, and Kyle was in the room. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only way you can explain it. Like, his spirit was there, and it was alive, and it felt really good. And we all knew that we did something special, and this was a great podcast because I don't want to say I forgot about a lot of these things, but, it was a long time ago, it was a few years ago, and, sometimes as a part of, like, any grieving process, you bury certain things, and you just don't come back to it every day. And today, to watch some of this footage again, and as we promote this episode, you're going to see, I'll post it on my Facebook page again. That's Tom DiNucci, writer-director on Facebook, or on Instagram. You can see me. I post stories all the time, like it's my fucking job. That's at Tom DiNucci on Instagram. I'm going to post, we have a lot of great content of Slimebuck, behind-the-scenes stuff, footage that we shot from the movie, vignettes with Kyle's parents, Vin and Annette, and a lot of his friends, and a lot of his family, saying all these great things about Kyle, and we have a lot of great content. We get documentaries and things like that. So I'm going to post some of that stuff, and if you're interested in Kyle's story, I really kind of suggest you check it out, because it's inspiring stuff. And, to this day, when I'm on a movie set and I'm bitching and moaning about something, because we all do that every day, right? We all take every fucking thing for granted so often. When I'm bitching and moaning about something on a movie set, once in a while I'll say to myself, fuck, man, like, Kyle would have fucking done anything to be here. Like, you stop acting like a fucking child for a minute,
right?
And realize how lucky you are to just be here right now and embrace that. So, Kyle will be with me forever, and anytime I find myself acting like a little insufferable fuck, because we all can be like that sometimes, right?
Sometimes.
Anytime I find myself being like that, I take a little breath, and I think of Kyle, and it calms me down a little bit, and I just realize that, like, I get to do something that, I've always wanted to do since I was a little kid, and a lot of other people have that same dream, and, every movie I do in a weird way is kind of tied to Kyle in a way from now on. So this was a great process for me. I know a lot of the other people that worked on the movie felt the same way. We're going to talk a little bit about post-production now to wrap things up. Brad Peach was very instrumental in this one. He did a lot of the music at the end. He also mixed everything. We worked at his studio in Taunton. Also, I got a chance to work with Robbie Savage for the first time, to the capacity of him, being an editor now. Robbie Savage is a name that you'll hear once in a while, but on the episodes moving forward, you'll start to hear his name a lot more. He was basically a kid that I met at a New England Tech event where I went to go speak to some students, and hey, does anybody want to come intern on a movie? Believe it or not, so as much as you'd think a lot of people would jump at that, like only a few people did, and he was one of them, and he was one of the only ones that really stuck with it. And then cut to a year later, we're about to edit Slimebuck, and he had some pretty sharp editing skills that he picked up at New England Tech, and he ended up cutting the movie together. Did a really good job. Got to work with him, and he's actually coming over in a couple hours. We're going to play some Call of Duty. So
very cool. I suck at that game, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the best. We like to play zombie mode. We go into zombie mode. We try to see how many rounds we can survive. That's like our thing.
Nice.
We try to it's more of like a man versus man. You're playing yourself in a weird way.
I can dig it.
And not trying to get eaten by zombies as well, obviously. Believe it or not, guys, quick aside, like there are a few times when I don't think about movies. Because I think about movies all the time. I'm plagued by my work in the sense where, like, I can't shut my brain off, right? What the fuck? I'm a writer, creator, filmmaker. Like, all that shit happens inside my fucking brain. So how am I going to shut that off? Some of the few times I can really, like, zone it the fuck out. Playing video games is one of them. So, like, specifically, like, certain games, and for whatever reason, when I'm being chased down by, hordes of flesh-eating zombies, and I'm shooting at them, and I'm trying to survive, like, for that 45 minutes or an hour zombie session, I'm not thinking about movies. Not that that's I'm not saying that, like, I'm not pissing and moaning about it, but I'm trying to, like, you gotta shut your brain off once in a while.
You have to have a space that's not work-related.
Right. And for me, that's running for my life in a digital world. What a fucking world we're living in, right?
Absolutely.
Whatever gets you through the night. So we cut this thing together, and we put it out, and I'm happy to say that it got a really great response. This thing was played at Rhode Island College in front of a really big audience. It was played at a lot of different, here's the thing, guys. It's all about the digital venues these days, if you will.
Absolutely.
And this thing got a ton of views on YouTube, and we put it out. We had a great Facebook campaign for it. We promoted the hell out of it. Got a lot of eyes on it. We got a lot of people to look at it. The MDA Association page picked it up. So a lot of kids that are, unfortunately suffering from the same thing that Kyle did, got a chance to see this and see the documentary, and hopefully it was inspiring to a lot of people and a lot of those kids, and they got to see, hey, look, this disease doesn't have to define you, or it doesn't have to, characterize who you are, and you can still pursue your dreams. So that was a really great thing, and that was definitely, the take home from the whole process, really. So you can see this movie right now on YouTube. All you got to do is go to YouTube, punch in Slimebuck, and make sure I think it's right around 20 minutes. Look for the 20 minute
it's like
version.
21 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, if you see that, you'll know you get the right one. And there's a lot of kind of nice there's a lot of connective tissue in this movie to a lot of the other films that I made. I watched this movie with John Del Ponte the other night. It's kind of become like our unofficial process before I do one of these shows. John comes by and we'll fire up the old machine and play one of these movies. And he reminded me, actually, and I noticed, a lot of the things you see in this movie, like a ton of the props, a lot of that, that science lab that you see in the dad's science lab in the basement, the coffins in the front lawn, just everything. Like, we used a lot of the props that we had taken from Almost Mercy and from a lot of the other movies that we made. So, like, there was a lot of cannibalism of props in art department, related things. And it's funny because, like, we can play a little Easter egg game, my friends and I that, have made these movies together. We can watch these movies and be like, oh my God, that's the medicine cabinet from blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, that's the skeleton that we used in this. So, yeah, I mean, almost every scene we can play that game. So it is really fun that we got this little club that we kind of, see all these fun little props get used over and over again. So good response to the film. It got out there. Kyle's dream was kind of, put together, and he was there. We felt him in spirit, and everybody saw this movie, and we're really happy about that. And there was some talk, maybe it's something that someday will be revisited. And I did write a feature-length script for Slimebuck.
Oh wow!
I did. Kyle's parents were very adamant about, continuing the legacy of Kyle as much as they could, and part of that was I have a really great script that is feature length, and I think when the time is right, there's a lot of emotions that are tied to this project, and I think that when the time is right, maybe that's something that will be moved forward, or at least dusted off and looked at again, because I gotta say, man, I haven't even read that script or thought about it in years, literally years, but I remember it being a lot of fun, really, really cute kids movie, little action-packed alien adventure. So, cool. Yeah, it's one of those things where I'd love to maybe someday revisit that, and who knows, maybe you'll see Slimebuck on the big screen someday.
That would be pretty dope. From a short film, I could see how it could definitely translate into a much larger film. Yeah, it's a much longer film at least.
Yeah, it's got a lot of those elements, and we just in the script, it's a lot like the short that you see, just with more meat on it. More of the why, more of the backstory, and obviously a lot more of the payoff at the end.
Very cool.
Well, guys, this was a lot of fun. We had a good time here on the porch, and we're ready for a nice chill weekend. Birthday shout out to John Del Ponte.
Birthday shout out to John Del Ponte.
He turns, I don't even know what, 30-something.
30-something.
Sunday.
30-something on Sunday.
That's right. And next episode we're going to hit you with is kind of fitting, because this was my first kids movie, if you want to call it, movie geared just towards kids. Well, the next episode we're going to do is about Arlo the Burping Pig.
Nice.
And that is a all-out kids movie geared towards probably 6 to 8-year-old little girls. About a really cute little girl who gets an adorable pig as a pet, and, well, guess what? This pig happens to talk.
Awesome.
So there's quite the backstory of how I got tied into that film and how that opportunity came up, and I can't wait to tell those stories. And, Daryl, we're going to dive into that pig movie.
I can't wait to watch it. I'm actually,
oh, God, I can't wait. You might want to watch it. Watch it. How old's your daughter?
10.
She's at the point where she would look at this and be like, Dad, this is super lame. But you can still watch it with her just because you guys can, bust on it together.
I'm gonna make her watch it with me now.
Yeah, there you go.
I have some younger kids. We're all gonna gather around.
Yeah,
you're watching this movie with me right now.
It's a good one for the kids.
Excellent. Well, shit, that's gonna do it for another episode here on the porch, episode 5. Slimebuck, Tom DiNucci, DJ Caveman. We'll catch y'all next week or next time on the next episode of the porch. We're gonna be on Arlo the Burping Pig. Follow us on the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the Snapchats and the Twitters, and we'll catch up with y'all next time.
Later, guys.